Hi, folks. Ed Hearn, 86 World Series New York Mets, and you're watching the Amato Podcast.
I'm John McGrail. I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist.
Me and Sterling are here to help you be better, help you be more funny, right?
Okay.
I would like to introduce you to Dr. John McGrail. He is a hypnotherapist.
Really what I do is I help people reach their potential, and that's going to make you a better performer and better on the show, and everybody's going to be happy. That's why they brought me here today. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's go have a seat.
Good to great. We're a team. We're a team.
All right, and here John McGrail, PhD, a clinical hypnotherapist, self-improvement expert, and spirituality teacher based in Los Angeles. He is the author of The Synthesis Effect, Your Direct Path to Personal Power and Transformation. You've been featured everywhere. I see, John. Time, Reader's Digest, U.S. News and World Report, Cosmopolitan, and I can go on and on and on. So that's an awesome thing. Your synthesis process is dedicated to helping people create health, wellness, personal change, growth, empowerment, and spiritual balance, both quickly and profoundly. And definitely in these times, we need that. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Ryan. It's nice to be with you today.
I appreciate you being here today. So we'll just get it out of the way. We're all dealing with the coronavirus right now, and we're all essentially, I don't want to say trapped, but stuck in our houses or kind of staying away from other people. How has that affected your business, really?
Well, truthfully, it has affected my business. As we were discussing before we came on the air, I normally see people in my office for personal sessions, and that's just not possible anymore. So I'm seeing all my clients remotely. And the good news is I've been doing remote sessions for many years, and with the video technology we have, I've got clients from Norway to Australia. And there's a downside to that. People are so stressed and so anxious now. They're not even doing sessions. They're just sort of in a state of shock. And a lot of people are out of work. So I've had to make some pretty substantial adjustments. And, you know, what I'm going to do the thing that we all have to do is get through this the best we can, make adjustments as we need to. And, you know, that's going to include adjusting my fees. You know, if someone's out of work, but they need help, I'm not going to turn them away because they can't pay the normal fee. Well, so we'll work something out. And, you know, you see this on TV. CBS has a huge campaign now. We're all in this together. Well, we are all in this together. There's no one that is spared from a germ. So it has nothing to do with anything. And if we work together, I think, you know, the vast majority of us are going to be fine, and we'll get through this.
And I think for me, that makes me feel better that we're all kind of in it together. It's not just I'm stuck in my house by myself and everybody's out there doing their thing and having fun. So I take a little bit of solace in that. And hopefully we can get through it. In your normal business, you're a hypnotherapist. So what type of things do you deal with when you see clients?
Well, the beautiful thing about this profession is that, you know, you can specialize in one or two issues, and there are some people that do that. I'm what's called a general practitioner, and I find it a lot more exciting. I think it makes me better at what I do because I work literally across the behavioral spectrum. Everything from helping people get rid of unwanted or unhealthy habits, fears and phobias. The big thing these days, and it has been for several years now, is stress and anxiety. You know, we are a stressed, anxious society. Even before all this occurred, it is sort of the mass consciousness of modern Western culture is negativity and stress and anxiety. We're bombarded with it all day. So that's probably the biggest thing I work with. But it can also be helping people build self-confidence and self-esteem, thinking that they're, you know, a lot of people don't think they're worthy of having what they want or being happy. So it's never boring. Everybody's different. And, you know, I like to say I haven't worked in 20 years. This is just every day is an exciting adventure. It really is.
In our time right now where everybody's even more anxious than normal, somebody who already has anxiety and this just compounds it, how can you help somebody like that?
Well, you know, all anxiety is caused at its root by a fear of either losing control or being out of control. And it's very easy in times like this to feel even more out of control than you might anyway. But the cool thing about anxiety is that with a very little assistance from the right a highly qualified trained person, you can help someone regain that sense of control over themselves, which is all we ever really can control anyway. You know, a lot of people are worried about what everybody else is doing or what's going to happen or what happened. And we have no control over that. But what we do right now in this moment, the choices we make, the way we think, do we give the negative thoughts power or not? It doesn't take an awful lot of practice to really hone in on that ability to do that. And once you feel like you have control of your mind and your thoughts and your choices, what you're doing, what you're thinking, and what you're saying, the anxiety goes down. I have people that come in. There's a technique that I use that does require personal contact. And so I'm not able to use it now, but I have people that come in, they're at a level 8 or 9 anxiety. In about 3 minutes, they're at 0. And it's
Oh, wow.
just helping them learn to get their mind under control. The subconscious mind will run away with you if you let it. And that's really what we do. We just help them sort of bring the subconscious mind, which is like a 3-year-old, back into the playpen, so to speak.
So is it more than just hypnotherapy? You said you have to actually physically
Yeah,
touch
there
them.
is a lot more to it than hypnotherapy. I mean, hypnosis is a very powerful tool because it's a state of consciousness that creates an open, receptive state of mind, a mind receptive to creating changes, because all our behavior emanates from the mind or processes through the mind. But yeah, there are a lot of other techniques and tools that we can use in addition to hypnosis that really, really help, especially with anxiety, gain that sense of control.
How often do you have to see somebody who has a high level of anxiety?
Well, you know, again, everybody's different, but if a person is really, really anxious, then I might schedule 2 or even 3 sessions in a week. That gives us a chance to build momentum and to sort of get some traction. If a person is just a generally low level, general anxiety, then usually once a week with me anyway to begin with, and then we adjust. We adjust the frequency of the sessions to the person's progress and how they're feeling. Uh, Average is once a week to start with. But if a person's really, really suffering, then I might do 2 or even 3 sessions in a week.
And I was watching another video that you were a part of, and you just mentioned it in the beginning of our video that essentially you're not alone. So I found that, I have anxiety. Probably our whole office has anxiety. I did a video about anxiety, and I had so many people reach out who have anxiety. So it made me feel a lot better that we're not in this alone. Could you talk about that?
Well, as I said, even before all of this started, our society, our culture is a society that is chronically stressed and anxious. And there are a lot of reasons for that we can or don't have to go into, but that is the state of affairs. Then you get something like this pandemic, which is not just affecting people on the other side of the planet, but everybody on the planet. And it certainly can raise that level. But the thing is that we are all in this together. And if we stay smart and if we help one another and work together, I heard this from an ER doctor the other day, a really brilliant woman out here in California who's been working, 18, 20-hour shifts. And she said, you have to remember this, everybody. Most of us, the vast majority of us, are going to be just fine. And yes, there are some people that are getting very, very sick, and there are some people that are losing their lives. And it's a tragedy. There's no question about it. However, if we all work together, if we follow the restrictions and the guidelines and the warnings and do what we're supposed to do, the vast majority of us, when this is done, and it will be done, are going to be fine. We just have to get through it. This reminds me, I wasn't alive during World War II, but I certainly, my parents were that generation. And if you look, and it's really easy to get online, if you look at what the country did during World War II, the world, this is somewhat similar. And if we work together and we're compassionate and not selfish and watch out for one another, it's going to be okay.
On the same topic, but not really what you do. When do you have any recommendations for when somebody turns the TV on or they're looking online and you have all this just negative and sensational news?
Yes.
Maybe it's not even true. It just seems to create even more anxiety.
It does. And this is part of the problem that we had even before this coronavirus outbreak. I'm doing a series of videos that come out Tuesdays and Fridays with little tips and tricks to help people get through this more powerfully. And the last one I released was about that very topic. One of the things that people don't realize is that hypnosis is a natural state of consciousness. We all do hypnosis every day. And some examples that I use all the time when I'm doing lectures on this subject. Anytime you watch a good movie or a TV show and you have an emotional experience, you've actually been hypnotized. Your subconscious mind can't tell the difference between reality and illusion or good and bad. It's like a 3-year-old child. And hypnosis creates a very open, innocent state of mind. So something that's a total illusion, like a movie, can create a very powerful emotional experience. That is exactly what it feels like to be hypnotized. So now take that and transfer it to watching MSNBC or CNN or Fox News or any of these news channels that all day long they're chewing on it, bombarding us with information. And a lot of it isn't true. And what happens is if you just stare at that tube and listen to that, you enter a state of hypnosis and you take those suggestions in, and it's easy to buy into that panic mentality. And then anxiety is off to the races. So what I tell people is stay informed. You want to know what's going on so that you can make good decisions and comply with whatever precautions we need to comply with. But once you know that, turn the damn thing off. Watch a good movie, read a book, go outside, get some fresh air. The more time you spend in nature, because you know what, the earth is fine, it's us that isn't. So get out there where the earth is fine, and you'll be much, much better off, and you'll do better.
What's your thought on every time something like this happens, or even a bad storm is on the way, a tornado, a snowstorm, that everything seems to disappear in the stores?
Well, again, it's that panic mentality. And one of the things that exists in our society, whether we like it or not, is that we are a society that has become very egoistic, very me oriented. And so people enter that panic. I'm going to survive no matter what. Screw everybody else. And then they go out and they hoard. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty good at keeping an even temper. But when I saw what was going on a couple of weeks ago out here in California, when this first started, people just running out of stores with shopping carts overflowing with stuff. And, you can't get toilet paper. You can't get, there's no shortage of food. There's no shortage of goods. Okay. And it really triggered me. So it happens because people are, we are survivalists. We want to survive. That every living creature on the planet with any kind of functioning brain wants to stay on the planet. But that's exactly the worst thing to do, because that's not working together. This is going to be something that's going to require massive teamwork. It really will.
And I was telling John before we went on live here, I own a painting company, and we need those masks to continue our daily work that we're allowed to do. There are none. You go onto Amazon or eBay, and we were looking just to get a couple so we can continue some work, and they were priced from it said literally $180 to $18,000 for some dust masks. It's just crazy.
Right.
So
and of course,
I feel bad for, and they don't work. And I feel bad for maybe the people who do need them in the healthcare field if they're wearing those. But somebody has all this stuff.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I was listening to the radio. I was giving myself my 10 minutes of media exposure on my way into today to do our interview. And that's exactly, they had a medical doctor on the air on the news station. And he said, listen, there's only one kind of mask that really works for this. And the kind of medical people do, it's called the 95 something. And it's very tight fitting, and it's very, it's built to, specs, and they're out of them, of course, because there are a lot of reasons for that I'm not going to go into because I don't really know. But the rest of us that are wearing these, flimsy surgical masks or the painter's masks, they don't work. They may help people not spread the disease if they have the disease. If they're sneezing and coughing, they may help keep the germs in, but they're not going to protect you. Nonetheless, people will probably say, well, nothing, it's better than nothing. I'll take my chances. So yeah, we really have to kind of calm down and listen to the experts who will guide us through this now that they've finally paid attention to it in higher places.
Could we talk about your book?
Oh, I'd be delighted.
I want to dive into it because it's awesome.
Can
you tell us about it in general?
Sure. Well, the synthesis effect is the title of the book. The process that I use is what I call, it's actually neuropsychosynthesis, which is a mouthful. So I just shortened it to synthesis. But essentially, it is a process that uses modern, cutting-edge scientific discovery, and it integrates it with ancient shamanic techniques that have been in use for thousands of years to get the conscious part of your mind and the subconscious part of your mind working together to synthesize or create a better version of you, whatever that means. Everybody's got a different version of what that is. But it's a process that really accelerates personal change, growth, and transformation in a very, very profound way. The process was developed when I was doing my doctoral research. I was trying to figure out what to write my dissertation on. And I was thinking, I can remember thinking, what do I have to offer human behavior? I mean, I'm just this little guy, and, I've done 3 years of research. I've written a lot of papers, but what original thinking do I have to offer the world as far as behavior and change is concerned? And serendipitously, I think I looked at my file cabinet one day and I said, wait a second, you got 1,000 case files here. What if you go through the case files and see if you can find some common denominators between your clients who did really, really well, really quickly, those who did okay, and those few, fortunately, that didn't do well. Let's see if you can tweeze out some things here. And I thought, well, why not? So I started doing that, and it didn't take very long for me to find some very specific, what I call the common denominators of creating change quickly and profoundly. And those became the models of what I call the synthesis process. I started incorporating them into my sessions, and that became my dissertation, which got me my doctorate. And now the readable form of my dissertation is the book.
The people who it may just not be effective for, was there anything in common with those people?
Well, there are some common denominators, absolutely. A lot of people call a hypnotherapist or someone like me because they have something that they want to change and they think it's going to be magically transformed. You go into a little trance and boom, I'm different. And it doesn't work that way. You have to commit to the work. There's a process involved. You have to really, really want it. You have to have a lot of intention behind it, and you have to incorporate expectation, which brings in some of the ancient techniques, because the indigenous people of the world think exactly the opposite way that we do. We've been taught to think in a very empirical way. I'll believe it when I see it. Show me the proof. If you can't prove it, it's not science. Now, that works to a great degree, but only to a certain level. If you were to say a Native American who still lives the old ways, or a tribal culture anywhere on the planet, because they're all essentially the same as far as their basic philosophies, if you were to say, you know what, we've got this figured out. We know that if you can't prove it, it's not science. So show me and then I'll believe it. They would look at you and say, you're insane. We think exactly the opposite way. We believe in order to see, and we expect to see what we're believing we're going to see. And lo and behold, modern science is proving, using our empirical rigor, that that's exactly the way manifestation works. What that means in plain language is that if you don't expect something, you're not going to get it. The more you expect it, if you put in the work, the faster you get it.
When somebody comes to see you, is there also work they have to do on their own after they leave your office or the Skype?
Absolutely. Everybody gets homework every week, and it varies from week to week, but it's always about helping them build physical, emotional, and spiritual balance. That is the key to living a powerful life. We are nothing more than energy machines. We don't like to think of ourselves that way, but that's essentially what we are. And when you learn how to balance your energies so that physically you feel good, emotionally and mentally you feel good, and you tap back into your spirit, which is the essence of it's our essence, it's consciousness itself. When those three energies are balanced, it's very, very powerful. When they're imbalanced, you have problems. You have dis-ease, or what I call disconnection. And so, yeah, everybody gets work to do, because once we get out of balance, and most people are so far out of balance in our society now, which is the cause of all that stress and anxiety, it takes a process to get it back in balance. And if you don't work on it every day, it's not going to happen. The mind needs constant reinforcement when it's creating new patterns, whatever those patterns are. So yes, there is work to do. It's not hard. It doesn't take a lot of time, but that's another common denominator. The people who commit and they do it consistently are the people that do well quickly.
If somebody comes to you and maybe they're just beaten down, that their spirituality is they still have it, but it's gone. They've been beaten up. How do you help them regain that?
Well, again, the beauty of the tools here is that it takes a lot less time to get back into balance than it did to get out of balance. The first thing I do, first of all, when someone comes in for a first session, or if I do a first session remotely, which is all of them now these days, they feel fabulous at the end of that session. Hypnosis and the other tools that we use really help you tap into that innate feeling of well-being. I like to say that your self-esteem, your spirit, your unconditional love for yourself is in there. It just gets squashed. It's like a treasure under the ocean. And what we do with this process is dig that treasure up, clean it up, polish it up, and now you get to use it again. And that happens right away. Remember, people who come in want to feel better. They truly want to feel better. And then when you give them the tools and help them use them, they start feeling better right away. It's unbelievable to watch it. And that sort of builds momentum. And then you have this sort of perpetual motion machine, believing in order to see, well, yeah, I do feel better. And then you see in order to believe, in order to see, in order to believe, and on they go. And in a very short period of time, we've got somebody that's tuned up and running like a Swiss watch, so to speak.
And we're talking about spirituality and religion in two different contexts.
Absolutely. It's very important to remember that spirit and religion are different things. There are something like 4,200 religions on the planet, on across the earth. But spirit is universal. Everybody, regardless of your religion, is a spiritual being. And we also have to remember that religion is man-made. We create religions, whatever they are. But spirit is the creation, the energy of creation itself. And we didn't make that. We are that. So if you are a very spiritually oriented person, it can greatly enhance your religious practice. But if you're just a religious person and you're not in contact with your spirit, then you're just going through motions. You're just doing ceremonies and rites and rituals, but it has no real connection. So that's the difference. I say that all the time. You cannot get away from your spirit. Whether you like it or not, you're a spiritual being. So the more you embrace it and develop it and nurture it, the more powerful you feel.
Is there a certain type of personality that seems to work out better for you as a client?
Yeah, people who, one, acknowledge that they need help. There's a huge stigma in our society about getting help for an emotional or let's say, I don't want to say mental illness, but an emotional issue. If you have a toothache, you call the dentist. If you wreck your car, you take it to the body shop. But God forbid you've got a problem that's holding you back, like a limiting belief or a fear or a phobia or something that's really keeping you from living powerfully. We're supposed to just suck that up. Oh, I don't want anybody to think there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with any of us. We all have stuff. It is just the nature of being human. So yeah, the people who acknowledge they've got stuff, they can't fix it themselves. It's very difficult. It can be done, and they want help, and those are the very best, because they come in open and wanting a solution. They want to feel better, and then they're willing to do the work and go through the process. And these tools work really, really well.
What about the reverse of that? Is there just somebody that maybe you meet with them the first time and just say, this is probably not a really good fit?
Very rarely do they get into the office, because when people call me, I screen them pretty carefully to make sure that, one, whatever they want to do is for them. I get a lot of calls and says, my girlfriend, husband, wife, sister, brother thinks that if I do this, I'll be better off. I never take those cases, because someone else is telling them what they should feel. So those are really, really risky cases. I don't take those. So it's got to be a sincere desire. And the other thing that I avoid at all costs are people, and every once in a while somebody will sneak through the filter, so to speak, people who expect magic, tap on the head. And, we are a society that wants instant gratification. I want it, and I want it now. In fact, I want it yesterday. This is a process. You don't get messed up overnight, and you're not going to undo it in an hour or an hour and a half. However, if you commit to the work and you're willing to go through the process, what took years to do can take weeks to undo. So it doesn't take a long time. Yeah, it's amazing. 2 to 5 sessions is sort of average for my clients, and they're feeling really, really good.
That's amazing. How does one get started? I mean, how do I find somebody like you or you and reach out and just get going?
Well, again, it starts with being sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, and you say, you know what, I've had enough of this. This is, as I said, that buried treasure, that unconditional love, our self-esteem, our spiritual energy is down there screaming through the muck. Hey, come on, it's not supposed to be this way. Do something. We're supposed to have fun. And so when those voices scream at you loud enough, you know, believe it or not, an easy way to excuse me for just a second, an easy way is to just go online and start searching. And when you find someone that feels good to you, or a few people, I always say call a bunch of people, talk to them, ask them about how they work, what they do, ask them about their training, ask them about their experience. And at the end of that, it doesn't take a long time. At the end of that due diligence, you're going to get a feeling. It's a gut feeling that one person is the one that you should work with. And as I tell people who call me, you know, I hope it's me. But if you find someone else that feels better, go to them, because that you will get the best results. This is about personal rapport. You have to have a very close working relationship. You've got to trust the person. You have to be able to really open up and be vulnerable, which is hard for people in our society. But when you do that with the right help, it is amazing how quickly you can transform your life.
Amazing. How did you yourself get involved with helping people?
A bit of a story. I've had the luxury of pursuing several careers. I started as a military and then commercial aviator, and then I went into film and TV. I had my own production company and went through a whole series of iterations, both in front of and behind the camera. I actually made a living as an actor out here for a while, and then got back into production. And it was just, you know, it was really a great run. I had a lot of very interesting jobs, and there was a phenomenon back in 2001 called the .com crash. I don't know if you remember it, but there was this huge artificial bubble of venture capital in these .com companies because the internet was exploding and they didn't produce any products, and it all blew up. And my little company got bought by a .com, and 6 months later I got laid off because they had no more money. And there I was, unemployed, 40-something. What am I going to do with my life now? So instead of just jumping back into film and TV, I just really did some reflecting, and I said, what is it about all the jobs I've ever had that I really loved the most, whether it was flying or production? What did I really love the most? And I realized that what I loved the most was teaching and coaching and mentoring the people that worked for me. And I realized that at heart, I'm a teacher. That's what I do. I'm a counselor. And so that, combined with the fact that I was a person that got sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. I was a very unhappy camper at one point in my life, and I decided to do something and fix it. And along the way, in that process, I worked with a brilliant hypnotherapist that really helped turn the whole tide of my life. And I started looking for ways that I could do what I love to do and make a living and not take too very long to get qualified to do it, because, you know, I'm 40-something. I've got real world bills like a mortgage and a wife and car payments. And I put the two together. There's a hypnotherapy college out here in LA that was the first, and for a very long time, the only federally accredited school of hypnotherapy in the country. And they're pretty close to where I am. So I went and visited them, took the test, found out that at least on paper, I was almost a perfect fit for the profession, and took a leap of faith and enrolled the next day. And like I say, I haven't worked in 20 years.
Wow. Could you tell me, that's amazing. It's how things work out, though. I mean, you know, good things happen to good people too. So you have a memory, without really giving us too much detail, about a patient that just sticks with you, a really great memory of helping somebody?
You know, it's interesting. I get asked that a lot, and I've got so many, it's hard to single one out. But I worked with a young woman, was several years ago now. And when she came in, she was feeling really down on herself. She had such low self-esteem that she literally said, you know, sometimes I don't even think I'm worth a space on the planet. And she was bright, she was attractive, she was well educated. There was no reason for this, but, you know, go back to your childhood and you can find the source of pretty much all your problems. And she had a pretty rough upbringing with a very authoritative and domineering father and a mom who wasn't really present. Anyway, within about 4 weeks, that had completely turned around, and she transformed herself into a confident, you know, poised, focused, just incredible. And her whole energy changed in about 4 weeks. And I'm still in touch with her. She calls me about once a year. Dr. John, how you doing? I just want to let you know I'm still doing great. She's got a business now. She's married. She's got kids. She turned her life around, and I think it was 4 or 5 sessions. So that's one that I've never forgotten. In fact, I shred folders after a certain period of time for my clients' confidentiality. I keep hers in a very special place in my file cabinet, and every once in a while I'll just pull it out so I can remind myself how powerful people can be when they truly want it and they do the work. And, you know, she gives me credit, but the truth of the matter is she did the work. I'm just a guide. I'm a teacher. So that's one, and there are so many, but it happens over and over and over again, and it's just delightful to see these people get their lives to be working the way they want them to.
Are you able to step back and actually appreciate that, what you do for people?
I do, but I've also worked really hard over the years to, one of my teachers, who is a Native American shaman, as I mentioned earlier, I combine a lot of ancient shamanic techniques into this work because we're now scientifically proving that they work. But one of my teachers was a Native American shaman, and one of the things that he said over and over again, he said, if you're a healer of any kind, you can't really take credit for the healing. You are a hollow bone. The energy of healing flows through you to the person. You are a conduit. So what I've learned to do is I don't get too much into my head over the victories, and I don't get too down over the ones that don't work. I always do my best with every single client, and I can't even tell you how gratifying it is to do the work I do. I love it. I absolutely have not worked. I never feel like I'm working, or hardly ever. Every once in a while, but no, I try not to get too uppity because I don't want to lose whatever power I've been given. And that's what I was told would happen. If you start thinking you're it, then you'll lose your power. I don't want that to happen.
So right now, business people are essentially freaking out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Everything's changing. I'm doing estimates via Skype as we're doing right now. Other businesses maybe are closing. They have to change the formulation of companies. People are laid off. What do you tell a business owner right now?
Well, you know, we're all, again, this is going to sound trite, but we are all in this together. My business has suffered. Everybody's business is suffering. And, you know, what I think is going to happen is because we are all suffering equally, we're going to figure a way to work things out. I rent offices out to other therapists, for instance, and most of us have taken a huge hit. Even though people are stressed and anxious, you know, they don't have the money to pay for sessions, or they're so freaked out they don't even think about getting help at this point in the game. They're just trying to survive. And so right now we have 6 of us in this office suite that are, you know, not bringing in the income we were 2 weeks ago. So the rent is due on April 1st, and we're going to have a conversation with the building and say, hey, what can you do to help us? And I think people are going to be doing that all over the world. What can you do to help us? And we can all do something to help one another. And if we do that, we may suffer a little bit. You know, we have to maybe turn the faucets down on our spending. But, you know, I truly believe that we will all get through it. And then on the other side of things, we can get back to business. Well, not as usual, because it's going to be a different model. But I think that's what you have to do. And I cannot imagine anybody not wanting to do that. And if anybody does want to do that, I believe in karma. They'll get their just desserts at the end of it.
Mm. What do you have in store for us this year? What are your plans for this year before everything kind of changed with the virus? What were your plans, and what are they now?
I was one of the things that I like doing, and I was doing quite a bit of our corporate sessions, keynotes and motivational presentations, and I was really, really amping up that part of the business. I was negotiating literally 3 weeks ago. I had 3 dates that were, and now of course they're all gone. I also have a television show called Off the Rails with Dr. McGrail, and that's been getting, you know, we've been shopping that around, and right now all that's on hold because nobody's taping. There's no production going on. So more speaking engagements, and hopefully more television and radio. I love doing TV and radio, and I don't know, you know, my own show. I'm working on another book, but but that is a book that right now would not do well if it was published today, because it wasn't meant to deal with this kind of stuff. So, like everybody else, I'm doing my sessions, and I'm staying as positive as I can and taking it a day at a time. And if I have to slow it down, and sometimes I do, I take it a moment at a time. And that's how you maintain control. I know at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay. This is going to work out. It always does. It always has. It always will. So we just have to slow things down. And this is a great opportunity in some ways. If you're at home and you're not working as much, or you're not working, it's a really good opportunity to do some self-reflection, to do a self-inventory and say, okay, wait a second. Maybe this is an opportunity for me to make some fundamental changes in the way I'm living my life, whether it's career, it doesn't matter. I have the time. There are projects I've been waiting to do, that sort of thing. The more we can stay normal, the more we can give ourselves structure, even if it's a different sort of structure, the better. And as I said, I know that there will be an end to this, and at the end of it, I'm still going to be here, and I'll deal with it as it comes. That's the best advice I can give, because that's what I'm doing.
That's great advice. So, John, how do we reach out to you? How do people find you?
Well, thank you. If you Google me, Dr. John McGrail, you'll find me. I got a pretty good presence on the web. But my website's Hypnotherapy Los Angeles, all one word, hypnotherapylosangeles.com, and drjohnmcgrail.com. I've got two websites, one more for the speaking and media stuff, and one for my day-to-day clinical practice. But my email address is there, my phone number's there, and I'm offering everybody and anybody free little mini consultations. No obligation whatsoever, but if people call me, I promise and commit to a personal response back. That's one of the things that I can do. It gives me a little bit more structure because I'm not doing as many sessions, so I do have some room on the schedule if people want to do some work. And if you call or you write or email me, then you will get a personal response from me. I don't have my people do that. I also have a YouTube channel, Dr. John McGrail, and there's tons of content on that. I've got a little series I do called A Better You in a Minute or Two. And as I mentioned to you before we went on the air, I'm doing a special series of episodes dedicated and focusing on this particular issue that we have, COVID-19, just with little tips and tricks. There are 46 regular episodes with lots of tips and tricks to help people live more powerfully on a day-to-day basis. And now on Tuesdays and Fridays, at least for the foreseeable future, I'm issuing special episodes that are just hopefully helping people get through this. And again, I'm sharing what I'm learning and how I'm coping, because this is new to me too.
I really appreciate it. I'm sure this will help people out, and we'll put all your links up so people can contact you. Again, thank you for taking the time. I know we have time now, but thank you for taking the time with me today.
We could stay, I only have a couple of sessions today. We could do this almost all day.
I appreciate it, John.
Well, thank you so very much. I really appreciate being here.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, Ryan, take care.